for watching. Every week on Closer Look, I try to take one issue that I focus on and I break it down so that the people of Zimbabwe can have a better understanding. There's a lot happening now that we're getting closer to election day. Xavier Kasukwere, the former National Political Commissar of Zanu PF, is back in the country. MDC has been in court fighting on who gets to keep the MDC name. As women have been coming out of the court, one side of the MDC, which I guess does not have women, has been calling them all manner of vulgar words, absurdities if you ask me. Zanu PF on the other hand, the president is firing Webster Shamu, Zanu PF primaries are done, everybody is saying anything and everybody is doing anything. I want to help you focus on what this election really is about. A few days ago, a mentor of mine, who is as good as an older brother, called me into his office and reprimanded me for my poor choice of words in a comment I made against President Mnangagwa. Days later, after I had calmed down, I realized, like any parent or big brother, they used their raising of their voice at me, not because they hate me, but sometimes raising your voice is the only way to express your frustration. My mentor raising his voice at me is because he looks at me and expects so much more. He knows I can do better and he demands it of me. We raise our voice at the issue, not because we hate our children, but because we expect so much better from them. That's why we raise our voices at our children. This is the same way I feel when I raise my voice at my Zanu PF party, or when those who support the opposition may raise their voices at their parties of choice. I don't hate Emmerson Mnangagwa. I just expect so much more from him, because I know how much better Zanu PF can do and could have done for the people of this country. One of the hardest decisions for me to make this year is to decide between voting for President Emmerson Mnangagwa or Nelson Chamisa, the only two candidates with a realistic chance of winning this election. I find myself torn because on one hand, my mind says the country needs a stable pair of hands. It's like a huge, large family funeral, the passing away of a great-grandfather. Relatives from across the world need to be coordinated, funeral and burial arrangements require actioning, estate needs to be managed, and debts need to be settled. Do I want to be handling it, or would I rather my father and his brothers handle it? You see, my mind tells me that the burden of responsibility of our nation needs to be given to our fathers so that they can get a chance to right their wrongs. Then my heart tears me in another direction. For 30 years, my life, I have grown up in a country where we are the generation that has felt the effects of poor decisions. All our pains and distresses are a direct result of bad decisions made by those who govern us. My heart tells me perhaps we can govern ourselves better than we are being governed. But here lays the complexity of decision making. Sometimes there is no right or wrong decision. Zimbabwe is a country founded on a promise of prosperity, a promise that the sacrifices of those that put their lives on the line to found this nation did it to make our lives better. It's not time to make up my mind yet, but I would like to hear the candidates renew that promise. President Mnangagwa, there is a promise this country made to its children, a promise that if I work hard and give this country all the days of my life, in return, this country will make sure I have food to eat, clothes on my back, a roof above my head, and that of my children. And each day will move me closer to my version of prosperity. Prosperity means different things to each of us. To some, it's a job after graduating from school. To others, it's access to affordable medicine and doctors, while to some, it's being able to look after the elderly or our young ones. Whatever our individual version of prosperity is, the pathway to get this country there can only be built by the ideas of our people. President Chamisa, you too have to make a promise that you will offer an alternative way to deliver me to my version of prosperity. There are many hearts considering trusting you with the leadership of this country. But I want to hear an alternative pathway, not your constant attacks on President Mnangagwa and obsessive denigration of women like your mother and mine, or the denigration your members do to one another. You take every opportunity you can to vilify women on stage. I want to end by saying this. Our country is in desperate need of a fresh start, a reset button. I'm a member of Zanu PF, and I will be the first to tell you that the most disempowered youth in Zimbabwe is a Zanu PF youth. But I also understand that ED knows this. If you get to see this, Mr. President, I want you to know that you can still get my vote. You went on death row and stood in front of bullets to liberate this country, while many called you ambitious and crazy. I can never undermine that. Your sacrifice and the sacrifice of every war liberator must be forever engraved on the tablets of our hearts. I can't question your love for this country, but I need to know that you understand the need my generation has for a fresh start. We have lost out on so much in this country. Some of us have left for the nearest border. We're not asking you to promise us that you will solve the problem for us. We're asking you to let us help you solve the problem for both of us. When you give Zimbabweans a chance to shine, we shine brighter than every star in the sky. Look at Danai Gurira, a Hollywood rock star. The special effects director of the world's biggest TV production, Game of Thrones, is Zimbabweans. NASA head of robotics is Zimbabwean. In sport, Tendai Mutawarira is a rugby world champion. Nedbank, Anglo-America, Gibbs University are all being led by Zimbabweans who were simply given the chance. Give us a chance to shine, Mr. President, and we will make you look good. And you too will be at peace with the job you have done. When we marched, and I marched, Mr. President, I helped organize that march. When we marched, we gave you a fresh start, a chance to rebuild your life and right your wrongs. This country, every young person I know, whether married or unmarried, educated or uneducated, doing well or not doing so well, needs the same chance to get a fresh start and a chance to rebuild their lives. So I'm asking you to return the favor and make this country a new promise of prosperity, because ultimately this is what elections are about. I want to commend you, Mr. President, because right now you are the only one who's getting on a stage and you're not pulling anybody down. You're the only one who's getting on a stage and you're focusing on where this country needs to go. There will be mistakes, there will be errors, there will be false starts. But thank you for making a promise. Mr. President Chamisa, likewise, every time you get up, you've got to make a promise. Thank you for taking the challenge to try and lead this country in an alternative path. With that said, see you next week. Hi guys, thank you for supporting the Lumumba Files. To make sure you don't miss a show, press the subscribe button below and the notification button, that's the one with the little bell, and you will always get told when I put up a show. Thank you for watching. Head bowed.